PJ Carlesimo, longtime coach of Seton Hall, and of course, we all know many teams in the National Basketball Association, including my Knicks. PJ Carlesimo, part of ESPN's draft coverage. How are you, sir?
Excellent, Rich. How are you? Good to be with you.
I miss talking to you. I forgot to mention Wagner College, obviously, in the great Grimes Hill section.
That's right. We got to get that Staten Island plug in there.
Come on now. You've had dinner in Danino's many times, I'm sure, right, in Staten Island?
Absolutely.
The king of Staten
That
Island.
and the Roadhouse. I lived there for 6 years, for sure.
Great. Fantastic. So one of the many reasons why I wanted to have you on tonight, PJ, is your relationship with Gregg Poppovich. Did you speak with him the night or just connect with him after he got Wembanyama that they won the lottery? Any sense of his
reaction?
reaction?
I've talked to him a couple times. He called me. He was over and went over to Europe, and then he actually was in Italy with his grandchildren. Mm-hmm. And he called me to give me a hard time. I think he sent me. He started with a text like, "I'm in Italy and you're not." That was the way it started.
Nice.
No, we've talked. We haven't talked a ton about Victor. Obviously, we talked about the fact that they got him and all that, but we didn't talk about how it would be. And I got a chance to spend a week with them this year. This was the 50th anniversary of the Spurs franchise, so they brought back all the old heads like myself, and I did 3 of their games at Chicago, at Toronto, and at Detroit. So I got to spend a week with he and the staff and the team, and it was great. And obviously, well before the Victor thing I knew it was a possibility, but he liked this young team. He likes the young guys he's got.
Oh, there's no doubt about it, PJ.
Put a lineup out there next year with Sohan and Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson and Victor probably at 4 and Zach Collins at 5. I mean, he's got McDermott. He's got a lot of good pieces. The problem is they're young. It's hard to win with young guys, and they were banged up. They missed a ton of time this year, but they will be dramatically improved, but very, very young. But the key is he really enjoyed. He wouldn't stay in if he didn't like it. He really liked that team last year, despite the fact that they weren't very competitive in terms of winning games. But obviously, when you get Victor, that kind of maybe sparks your interest a little bit again. He did okay. The other 2 number ones he had were David Robinson and Tim Duncan. He did okay with those 2, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's going to do okay with Victor also.
That's why you're part of the draft coverage, PJ Carlesimo, is because you have such great insight like that. PJ Carlesimo here on the Rich Eisen Show. But what sense did he give you about Victor Wembanyama when you just texted with Pop?
It's unbelievable to hear not just Pop, but the people in the could see him a number of times during the year. And ironically, I mean, let's start with, as a coincidence, he plays last year in Asvel in Lyon, a team there owned by Tony Parker. So, I mean, there's a former Spur with, I think, 4 or 5 championships, and obviously came here a young French player and played for Pop. So, I mean, who better to tell him, hey, this is what it's going to be like, A, playing in the NBA, B, playing for San Antonio, C, playing for Gregg Poppovich. And then this year, he's playing for the Mets, owned by Boris Diaw, who also won a championship, another French player who won a championship playing for Pop. So I think he comes in. He was really excited. You could tell that the day of the lottery when the Spurs got the number 1 pick, how excited Victor was himself. And the thing that keeps coming back to me from the people in San Antonio who have seen him and talked to him and obviously, watched him play a bunch this year, primarily over in France, they say he's a really grounded young guy. Like he's not, like an airhead. He's not somebody full of himself or anything. He knows he's got a lot to learn. He's very, very comfortable with himself. His family's done a good job. His parents did a really good job raising him. And he's going to fit in like a glove. You know what San Antonio's like in terms of the kind of people Pop wants. I mean, they used to use the expression all the time. We sat in that video room or the meeting room with the team more times at the end of the year when we would be talking about a draft, and it was R.C. Buford and the front office people that were making the decision along with Pop, but the coaches would be there. And somewhere in the discussion that someone would always say, can he be a Spur? Which meant, is he going to put up with being pushed, being demanding, being unselfish, playing defense, and check your ego at the door? And that always came up. And with Victor, they said right from the beginning, this guy's a delightful young guy. He's going to fit in. He's perfect. He is a Spur. He's the kind of guy that they want there. So before you even talked about what a great shot blocker he was and how well he shot the ball and, the things he does at 7'4.5", 7'5", which are breathtaking, was the person himself. And they just said, we love him. He's just really a nice, easygoing guy. He doesn't think he's got all the answers. He wants to be pushed. He wants to be a good player. I can't imagine he's not going to take advantage of it. And no knowledge of this whatsoever. But TD still lives there. Timmy still lives right there.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the gym working out all the time. I mean, what a resource to have guys like that you sit down and talk to, like, what's it like to be one of the best players in the history of the game? What's it like playing for Pop? What's San Antonio like? It's amazing. And, and when everybody said, wow, how lucky Pop was, isn't this great? For sure. And as is San Antonio. But I got news for you, Rich. I really believe how lucky Victor is. He couldn't have had, in my opinion, a better situation to come into. Playing with these other young guys, a little bit off the beaten track. They're not going to be able to minimize the expectations and all the hoopla, but believe me, it's a lot easier to deal with in San Antonio than it would be in a number of other cities in the league. So it appears from the outside to be a really nice two-way street.
Well, in terms of
obviously great for the Spurs, but I think very good for Victor.
Well, and in terms of just a couple more questions for you, PJ, because I know your time is limited. So how do you think Gregg Poppovich will coach this kid? Like, what's his plan, knowing him and knowing the organization and knowing what he's done with top talent?
Find out what Victor's like. Like, what is he ready for? What is he not ready for? How many minutes is he going to be able to play? Is he going to be a focal point of the offense, or is he going to be, one or two or three options? For sure, he's going to take advantage of the shot blocking. I mean, that's one of the many skills he has that are just way above average. I mean, I've always felt can't really teach shot blocking. You obviously need the skills to begin with, and he's got that, in spades. I mean, you can't be longer, more athletic, have better time than Victor has, but he's a really gifted shot blocker. He sees the floor. He sees it from the weak side. I mean, that skill alone is going to allow him to be a major contributor this year. Before you even start talking about, he's a way above average shooter. He's got a really good stroke. He needs to improve his shot selection. There's no question. He takes off balance shots. He takes tough shots for the Mets. I mean, he led the league in scoring and rebounding and blocked shots. So he had to kind of do everything for that team. He won't have to do everything for the Spurs. He's going to be with some other very talented young players also. So, but I think it's going to be it'll be a learning curve for Pop and the team too, because they're not sure what he's going to be like. How much can we put on his plate? Is he just going to thrive the way Duncan did when he came in? Again, Timmy, 4 years at Wake Forest,
right,
the best player in college basketball. Victor has an edge because he's played for 3 years in a professional league. French league outside the United States is probably one of the top three. So he's been playing against men. He's been playing against professionals for a while. He's not coming in like a 19-year-old college kid in the States would be coming in. I wouldn't quite equate it to the 4 years that Timmy was older and the schedule that he had played in the ACC and been the best player in college basketball and getting a chance to play with David Robinson and some of the guys that were already there. That was a tremendous advantage. But Victor's not coming in. Don't think he's like a 19-year-old American kid who, hasn't played against men in the last 3 years, hasn't been in a professional league. So he's bringing some things to the table that your average 19-year-old is not going to. So, and I think that'll be the learning curve for Pop. Like, how much, do we want him to shoot a bunch of threes? Are we going to post him up at all? Are we going to let him, when he gets a rebound, bring the ball up the court? Because he did that for the Mets, and he did it well. I mean, he got a rebound, and he dribbles the ball up the court, and he's making bounce passes or throwing the ball ahead to the wing. So all of that, I think, will be learned. I think they don't know. And again, watching him play for the Mets is not going to be the same as what it's going to be like in San Antonio. He'll be a totally different player mid-season, late season than he is in October and November. They'll still be learning in October and November what he can do. He'll be learning, what he can do. How many minutes can they play him? All those things will just be, the normal rookie learning curve that Pop has with any of them. But I think that This guy, the expectations that they will be pushing a little bit. The strength thing is going to take time. There's no question. I mean, I was lucky enough to coach Kevin Durant when he was a rookie in Seattle in 07, 08, and when you look at him the first time, you go, "My God, he's so thin. How's he going to be able to play?" Well, guess what? He's obviously thriving, and he had a frame that just never put it on. I would, Victor is going to be significantly stronger and will put weight on, in the next couple of years. He's a young guy, but that strength is going to be a problem, and in a strange way, when you're 7'5", like the angles, it's hard to get the leverage, and can you imagine like smaller guys trying to box them out where they're going to be hitting them and stuff? So, Victor knows that already. He knows his body, but clearly getting him stronger and getting him used to the kind of guys, the strong physical players that he is going to play against. The good news is he doesn't have to play center. Zach Collins will play center, or Bassie. They have other good young bigs, 6'10", 6'11", more physical than him. They're smaller, but I mean, is he going to be down inside sometimes? Yes, but he can go away from the basket. He can switch on a pick and roll. He can trap. I mean, he can do some things that you just don't think somebody 7'5" can do. This isn't a big plotting big that, when they get him out away from the basket, we're going to, it's going to be a nightmare. No, it's not going to be. He's just a spectacular athlete. And again, that it's going to take time to learn NBA defense and learn to play with his teammates and all the different things that San Antonio will do defensively. But when you're starting where he's starting with these unbelievable gifts that he has, it's going to really be fun to watch.
Me too. I'm with you, PJ. So last one for you, and I know I'm putting you in a position of talking for Gregg Poppovich, which nobody should do or does.
And
okay.
Pop he'd probably tell you I'm the last one he wants.
I hear you, but I want to put two things together here of what you said at the outset of our conversation. One is that, he wouldn't be doing it, meaning coaching, if he didn't already like a lot of the young players that he did have already before Wembanyama dropped in his lap. So that's one thing. And then two, normally somebody who is 74 years old texts a friend saying, "I'm in Italy and you're not," because they're retired, because they're in Italy, because that's what they want to do with their lives, because they can, because they love wine and they love food and they love life. So my question for you is, does Victor Wembanyama extend Gregg Popovich's career more than he probably was thinking about at this point last year, PJ?
My opinion, yes, but it will clearly be a function of how much he enjoys it. Is he going to enjoy it as much as it would seem? Wow, this is going to be great coaching him, or is he, going to want to spend more time with his grandchildren? And say, what, let somebody else do it. Let one of our young guys. Or my opinion is yes, just because all I'm hearing about, if everything I'm hearing about Victor is true, Pop is going to love coaching him, and he still likes to coach. I mean, he still enjoys coaching. He wouldn't be coaching now. I used to say he's going to quit. He was going to quit. People used to ask me as if I knew when he was going to retire. I said he's either going to quit when Timmy quits. Timmy walks out. He's going to walk out, win a championship, and that's it, or he'll coach till he's 90. Now, I don't think he's actually going to coach till he's 90, but he likes it. He's still enjoying it. So as long as he continues to enjoy it, yes. I do think it'll extend his career a little bit. I do think it's going to be great to watch. And, it's like, how about like having, like you said, falls in your lap? How about a chance to, instead of rebuilding with all these young guys, how about if we just maybe jump-started a little bit by giving you, maybe the best guy to come into the league in 10 or 15 years. Why don't you try it with him? So I hope it's going to be as great as experience as it would appear to be for Pop.
Okay, and last one for you, PJ. Tonight, when the Blazers are on the clock, 3rd overall, it's either Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson. A lot of people think it is going to be Scoot. What do you think Damian Lillard, how this choice or the Blazers' choice tonight is going to land with him and reverberate into the free agency?
I don't know, no knowledge of it whatsoever, but it would seem to me that Dame wants to compete. He wants to compete for titles. He wants to win. He wants to be back in the playoffs. He wants to be doing that. A young guy, other than Victor, is not going to accelerate that process. I love Scoot. I like Brandon, whichever guy does fall to them, particularly if they don't make any kind of trade or anything like that. But no, I think that's going to be concerning for Damian. Another young guy, like that's not going to get them significantly closer to where he wants to be.
PJ, you're the best. Thanks for taking my call. Let's do this more often. You be well. You be well. Thanks again.
You too, Rich. Thank you. Great being with you.
Right back at you. PJ Carlesimo. Perfect guest on a day like today with Victor Wembanyama going to San Antonio, where he was an assistant under Pop for so many years. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.